Welcome back to CBCP News Conversations. Once again, I am Nico Balbidina. And just the other day, for the month of March, Pope Francis released a call to prayer in recognition of the rights of Christian communities suffering from persecution. Tayo mga Pilipino, we're no different from this issue. The Philippines has had its fair share of persecutions. If you remember, we welcomed 2019 with a bombing in Hulo that claimed 23 lives and injured more or less 100. And up to today, nagsastruggle pa rin ang ating mga kapatid sa Marawi, recovering from the siege nangyari doon almost 2-3 years ago na today. So, in light of that, we have invited a very special guest. Special in a sense kasi hindi ito yung first time na nakausap natin itong guest na to. Also, he has been cooperating with us, helping with us, helping us to deliver to you the things that you need to know. So, without further ado, pakilala ko na si Mr. Jonathan Luciano ng A to the Church in Me.
Hello, Nico, and hello to all our viewers. Maraming salamat sa muling pag-imbita sa akin dito sa Conversations.
So, si Mr. Jonathan Luciano, ulitin ko lang, you're the director of the A to the Church in Need dito sa Philippines.
Yeah, here in the Philippines.
Anong ginagawa ng A to the Church in Need? Pakilala niyo po sa mga listeners natin.
A to the Church in Need is a pontifical foundation that is mandated by the Holy Father to help support the church wherever it is persecuted, suffering, oppressed, or suffering material need. So basically, wherever the church needs help, especially where the church is poor or oppressed, A to the Church is there. So we support a lot of projects in about 150 countries, more than 8,000 projects we support, and these projects range from helping to rebuild churches, giving for scholarship to priests, seminarians, religious, providing transportation for catechists, books, in broadcast media, things like that, and a lot more. And we are solely financed or funded by benefactors around the world. Right now, we have around more than 900,000 benefactors from different parts of the world, especially in the 24 countries where ACN maintains an office. So we are part of those offices around the world where we raise funds to help the suffering church around the world. So ngayon po dito sa Pilipinas, we opened the office 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, and now we are in the process of gaining mission partners to help the suffering church around the world.
So yun nga, discussing yung message ni Pope Francis na, and if you haven't watched it, papakita namin sa inyo mamaya. Pero for us to further understand that, and also for us to further know kung ano ba yung nangyayari ngayon, in his message, Pope Francis called for a prayer for not only for the recognition of the rights to have faith, but also for the recognition of the people who suffer under persecution.
Yeah.
So, how would you define persecution when it comes to religious beliefs?
We are really very happy that the Holy Father takes notice of this. Hindi niya ito binabaliwala. No? Actually, he is the one who spoke that Christians or Christianity is more persecuted now than during the early days of the church fathers. During the early years of Christianity, we are more persecuted now more than ever. And so hindi ito biro at hindi ito maliit na bagay. That is why we are very happy that the Holy Father chose this month for his prayer intention. He has a monthly prayer intention. But for this month, we will focus our prayers, we will offer our prayers and all our help to those who are persecuted because of proclaiming Jesus as their Lord, as their God. And persecution happens in a lot of countries. When we launched our religious freedom in the world report last year, we discovered that out of the 190 countries, there are 38 countries that they have this certain degree of persecution. And out of those 38 countries, talagang 21 of those are merong talagang massive persecution of Christians. And it's very sad. And we are not excused from that. Even in our country, as you mentioned earlier, we have our share of persecution. But persecution can come in many forms. Hindi lang siya yung violent persecution. Of course, that's really the most horrible persecution, where Christians are killed, you know, where Christians are tortured, where Christians are they were displaced from their homes, from their lands. But there are still forms of persecution that can hurt us, especially even if we are not physically harmed, but our beliefs are mocked, our faith, our basic tenets, our basic faith is mocked by people around us. That is already persecution, because not only that you persecute my belief, but you disrespect what I believe, or what I worship, or who I worship. And sadly, that happens in our society now with the advent of the social media. Social media is good because we see the stories of persecution being, broadcasted or being shared. But at the same time, social media can be a venue for hatred, for these persecutions to happen as well. So we have to excuse from that. And this is already happening here in our country.
Nakakalungkot nga yun on social media, no? Kung pwede lang siyang gamitin, actually nagagamit natin siya to report these violences. Pero at the same time, nagagamit din siya minsan accidentally or with intention as a motivation for for persecution and violence.
Exactly. Just recently we saw a lot of posts mocking priests, our own bishops,
Even the faith itself.
the faith itself, which is even worse. And it makes me really sad kasi some of these posts come from young people who I would say were not really taught very well about the faith. So that is why they don't have this really, really strong foundation in the faith. That's why they can say these things. That is also a challenge for the church, for us now. How do we reach out to these young people so we can teach them? We can teach them that this is not right. What you're saying is not right. And that you should love the faith, and you should proclaim it, and you should defend it.
Ikaw ba, Mr. Luciano, as someone who is in a viewpoint na you encounter these persecutions every day, you work with these persecutions every day, paano ninyo i-describe ang stand ng faith ngayon dito sa Philippines? Considering all the issues revolving around, yung mga napag-usapan natin, may mga persecute ng mga priests, ng mga bishops, even the faith itself.
I was in Holo a few weeks after the bombing, and I was shocked, definitely. It was a shocking experience that a very, very tiny minority of people attacked in that kind of manner. Parang sa akin, this is really horrible. There are children inside the church, there are old people inside the church, and all they want is to pray, to worship on a Sunday. And this happened. 23 people died, a lot more injured. But I would say that given this is on my own opinion, we have a strong foundation of the faith here. Otherwise, we would have collapsed a long time ago because of the persecution that happened many times, many years ago. But because of our nature as strong Christians, our faith is well founded. I choose to believe that. So that's why we're still here. We're still standing up. And although it is very disheartening to see some people really trying to ruin the church, giving it a time limit of 25 years, for example, even if it's really saddening, I still see a lot of people standing up for the faith, standing up for the faith, and really going out of their ways to proclaim the faith. And I think it is these things that are happening, the things that we hear in the news, we can accept these things as challenges for us to really love our faith, to defend it, because this is not given to us by a group of people or a priest or a bishop. This was given to us by God Himself. The faith came from God, and God alone can give us this faith. And if we defend that, if we protect that, then I think we can stand up against all of this persecution. It's not going to be easy, definitely. And we need prayers for that. We need a really, really strong faith for that. But we can do it. We are Filipinos. We're resilient. Bagyo nga, di natin inuurungan eh.
Minsan pinagtatawanan lang eh.
Precisely. So this storm, I can say, raging on in the church now, we can survive this if if we pray and we just held on to our faith.
So, speaking of the challenges, so far, kumusta ang efforts ng ACN sa itong dalawang magkasunod na pinakamalaking challenges sa faith natin, which is yung Holo bombing and yung rehabilitation ngayon sa Marawi siege?
I would like to start with Marawi. They're doing a great job in Marawi. The Duyug Marawi team, which we have helped from the very, very start until now, we're still helping them, of course. They have already, during the early days of the recovery, I spoke many times with Bishop de la Peña, and what I really admire this bishop, because for him people come first, not the structure, not the building, because we can easily rebuild his cathedral. It's not a very big cathedral, but we can easily rebuild it. But he told me, no, we focus first on people. I want my flock to feel secure again. I want my flock to be together again, to be in community, in communion again. So we supported that. Until now, they are still rebuilding the community, the small pockets of Christians in the prefecture of Marawi, and the survivors of the siege. It's quite traumatic for them, Muslims and Christians alike. So right now, our main focus is to rebuild the community. Once we see that the Christians have already regrouped and are starting to thrive once again, then probably we can rebuild the structure. But we cannot do that unless the government steps in. We cannot rebuild the cathedral if the city is still in ruins. So it's a very complicated thing. But aid to the church in need is always there. We assured the bishop that we will be there whenever he needs us. Right now, there's an ongoing project with Duyug Marawi, which I mentioned, is to help the survivors and the Christian community there, especially in their livelihood. And second, with Holo, like I said, I was there a few weeks after the bombing, and I spoke with Father Romeo Saniel, the Apostolic Administrator of Holo, and they have the same sentiment. The Bishop of Marawi and the Apostolic Administrator of Holo, they have the same sentiment. They wanted to focus first on the faithful. So they want, Father Saniel wanted to regroup this tiny minority of Christians in Holo and start from there. And to give formation, debriefing, trauma healing, and of course immediate help for those who died, the families of those who died. And the rebuilding is the last thing that we will do.
Ang ganda nun, na of course kasi diba, before we rebuild the church, we have to first rebuild the church,
the real church. Yes.
So it's very beautiful that our bishops, our priests, they know where to focus their strengths, and that we know then where we can get our people again and how. So speaking about that, let's now go to the message of the Pope. As I heard, it was yesterday nung release yung prayer.
Released in Rome yesterday.
And if you watch it kasi, sobrang ganda kasi hindi niya lang bastang sinabihan yung mga tao to pray for your persecuted brothers and sisters. And explain din niya kung bakit, sa kung paano. So, we're going to play the video right now. And when we come back, we're going to discuss a few points of that video and how ACN will be in part of this effort, of the endeavor for the call of prayers.
Quizás nos cueste creerlo, pero hoy hay más mártires que en los primeros siglos. Son perseguidos porque a esta sociedad le dicen la verdad y anuncian a Jesucristo. Esto sucede especialmente allí donde la libertad religiosa todavía no está garantizada. Pero también en países que en la teoría y en los papeles tutelan la libertad y los derechos humanos. Recemos para que las comunidades cristianas, en especial aquellas que son perseguidas, sientan la cercanía de Cristo y tengan sus derechos reconocidos.
And so that was a very good video. That was I always get chills kapag napapanood ko si Pope Francis na nagsasalita
yeah.
to people. Kasi hindi siya yung, napaka-unconventional niya magsalita eh. Di ba? Parang kapag yung nakita mo yung mga words niya, hindi siya masyadong malalim, yung paraan ng pagsasalita niya, sobrang conversational,
Yes.
ganun. So, one of the most striking lines sa akin doon is yung sinabi niya sa umpisa, na it may be hard for us to believe, but there are more martyrs today than there are, or than in the first centuries. Meron ba tayong figures to to support this?
Actually, I mentioned earlier that the Pope, it came from him, this statement that there are more martyrs today, there are more Christians killed today than in the first centuries. It's true. And we have the Religious Freedom Report, and a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, we released the Persecuted and Forgotten report, which focuses mainly on Christians being persecuted, because the RFR, we call it the RFR, which we launched last year, this Religious Freedom Report, it discusses the faith in general, different faiths, the status of religious tolerance in the world. But for our report, Persecuted and Forgotten, it focused on Christians. And we discovered through our extensive research that more than 600 million Christians, 600 million, half of the Christians in the world, we are 1.2, something 1.3 billion Christians in the world, half of that cannot freely exercise their faith. How weird is that? So, and last year alone, no, 2 years alone, there's one Christian being killed every 6 minutes. One Christian killed every 6 minutes. That's the statistics.
So, in the course of our conversation today, meron ng tatlong namatay.
Meron ng tatlong
more or
namatay
less.
because of the faith. No other reason. No other reason. Just because they're Christians, they're killed. So it's true, and we have the facts, we have the data to support that claim of the Holy Father that there are more Christian martyrs now than in the early years of the church.
Meron kaya explanation kung bakit imbes na habang nagmamature tayo in the faith, imbes na mas lalong bumababa sana, meron kayang possible explanation kung bakit parang it gets worse every time?
Partly, I think I can answer that in two parts. First, it's the culture. In countries where Christians are minority, the tendency is to attack the minority. The second is some are government sponsored. Persecution that are government sponsored, for example, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, for example, where Christianity is not even tolerated. Making the sign of the cross in public is illegal. These are, and hindi ito nagbabago eh. Actually, based on our report, it becomes worse. The trend is, it becomes worse. With the advent of these ideologies, violent ideologies, for example, Wahhabism, where this Wahhabists claim that the purest of religion, their religion, and other religions are nothing, and they have to be disposed. So these ideologies, and of course somehow there's this component of authority, of power. That's why they target the minority, and sadly, in Asia, for example, Christians are minority. We only feel majority here in the Philippines because 87% are Christians.
But outside the Philippines.
But outside our country, it's a different story altogether. When you go to the Middle East, for example, in 2017, from 1.2 million Christians in Iraq, they're now down to, 500,000. The population of Christianity in the Middle East is declining.
So are they either killed or what happened to them?
Some of them became refugees. Some of them were displaced, and some of them sadly are tortured and killed. So that's what's going on in the world right now. And Aid to the Church in Need has this task to make the world aware of this reality, because most of these stories are not in the media. You can't find this in the media. Most of these stories, and that's why we have this obligation to tell the world of these atrocities against our brothers and sisters in many parts of the world.
Also the next line, no? It also happens in countries where they protect freedom and human rights. That is very true. Pero can you explain to us how and why that
Yeah,
happens?
the Holy Father said that on paper, of course,
On paper and in
on
theory.
paper,
Yeah.
we protect human rights, but the truth is otherwise.
Mm.
Or there are still instances, even if the religious rights are protected, there are still instances of persecution, just like what's happening here in our country. Our constitution, it is enshrined in our constitution that we have the protection of the state
For a right to
for
religious
a right
freedom.
to religion, but in the South, we are persecuted. The government sometimes persecutes us, mocks our beliefs, mocks our faith. And that is also contrary to what the Constitution or what the paper, the Holy Father says, is what is written on that paper. So um, in other countries as well, for example, in India, um, it is also protected. The religious rights are protected, but there is now an escalation of violence against Christians there. In China, for example, of course it's a communist country, but now the attacks on Christians, by destroying churches, subjugation of priests, and destroying crosses, these are all but manifestations of widespread persecution. So it is not always an assurance for us Christians that it is written on paper, because sometimes what is written on paper is not followed. Well, we have a lot of evidence to support.
I think this also proves your earlier point na ang persecution kasi it follows culture and authority, di ba, the government. So, for example, let's say nasa kultura nga naman natin ang mag-persecute ng minority, kahit ano ilagay natin on paper, talo yan pagdating sa culture and authority.
Precisely.
It's very, I think that's very sad to admit. It's very painful to admit.
And a lot of people don't know it. So
And also, a lot of people don't know it. And the more that we talk about it, sometimes, lalo lang umiiwas yung tao dun sa topic na yun. Bakit kaya ganun siya iniiwasan?
well, for convenience. Kasi Kristiyano ako for example, or tayo kasi hindi tayo masyado affected dito That's why we really don't see how gaano kagrabe yung pupunta ka sa simbahan not knowing that if it's going to be your last mass because somebody will attack you after that, or not only attack you but your loved ones. There are instances in Africa that they are displaced from their own lands just because they're Christians. Just because they're Christians. So the other religions, the majority religion tried to displace you, and that's really sad. Parang it's hopeless. Parang, and what's really amazing about this is they still hold on to their faith. They don't give up. Kasi, as I mentioned earlier, our faith is given by God Himself, and you don't give up on that easily, unless of course the foundation of your faith is weak. So it's still an ongoing challenge for us, especially for us Filipinos.
It's very beautiful talaga na Pope Francis took the time to show the public, to show the people how important this issue is. Na kinailangan niyang tawagin ng mga tao na, "Uy guys, pagdasal natin to." How helpful is this sa ACN?
Yeah.
How important is this na naglabas ang Pope ng call to prayers for the persecuted brothers and sisters?
Definitely, this is very helpful for our campaign, especially to create awareness and ask the people to pray for us, with us. And we are going to use this material, this video, in our appeals. Because right now, this year, we are into fundraising, to creating awareness as well. And this is a very, very good material for us. We can invite people not only to pray, but to really offer something concrete so they can help really concretely their brothers and sisters who are oppressed, who are persecuted. But of course, primary is prayer, because that is the only thing that the least that we can do for our persecuted brothers and sisters is to remember them in our prayers. There's a very beautiful quote that came from Egypt. This is a persecuted Christian from Egypt. Now, he said that our only connection is the prayer. Do not cut the connection.
Mm-mm.
And this prayer becomes our way of being in solidarity with them. No? Kasi tayo na we are not experiencing persecution. The least that we can do is to pray for them and make sure that they are remembered in our prayers. And so this invitation of the Holy Father to the world to pray for persecuted Christians in many, many countries, in many parts of the world is really very both timely and needed.
Meron bang projects ang ACN particularly for the month of March following yung call ni Pope Francis for prayers for the month of March?
Actually, our projects are ongoing. I didn't mention that all projects are submitted to our head office in Germany, and they are assessed by our project department, and they will decide if this really needs help. And we receive a lot of project proposals every year. Last year we approved almost 8,000 projects around the world, but that's about 80 or 70% of what we get, the project proposals that we get. So as much as possible, we wanted to support every project that comes to our head office, but unfortunately the budget constraints, of course, we have a very limited funding as well.
We have to remember din kasi this is a foundation,
Yes,
this is not
yes.
a business.
Yes, of course, this is a non-profit.
So, as we go to the end of our conversation, I'm gonna give you a chance to talk to our audience and reiterate the call of the Father sa ating mga Christians around the globe to pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters.
First, I would like to express my thanks to you, Nico, and the CBCP media for inviting me to speak to you about this call to prayer by our Holy Father Pope Francis. This is very timely now that we are celebrating the season of Lent, where we have to intensify our prayers. Maybe it is a good idea if we include in our prayers, in our daily prayers, the Christians around the world, our brothers and sisters in faith, who cannot exercise their faith freely just like us because of fear of persecution, of death, of torture, of displacement. So the Holy Father invites us all to please pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters. And through our prayer, we may be in solidarity with them in their sufferings and in their sacrifices. And at the same time, I would like to invite all of you who are watching this to join us in our mission to help the suffering church by helping our persecuted brothers and sisters. Now, if you want to know more information about how to help our persecuted brothers and sisters, you may visit our website at www.acn-philippines.org, and you will find more information about it. And you can also visit our Facebook page, ACN Philippines. And we invite you to become our mission partners and answer the call of the Holy Father to help and support our persecuted brothers and sisters around the world. Thank you.
So, kanina, before we started, inumpisa ko yung introduction sa'yo na sabi ko, this is not the first time that we will be talking to you. Nung binilang ko sa isip ko, this is actually the third time that we invited you here.
Yeah.
And it's the fourth time na nakakwentuhan ka namin kasi may once na kami yung pumunta dun sa office ninyo. Thinking about it, I guess it is very good to assume na hindi lang yun dahil we have very close ties, the CBCP and the ACN. Siguro, we can see this as proof na ang problems natin with Christian persecution is an unending problem.
Yeah.
And it is a problem that we have to address every day or as much as we could.
No, you mentioned that. It's quite odd because during our in the course of parang revisit of the vision mission of Aid to the Church in Need, somebody spoke that the vision of Aid to the Church in Need should be a world with no more persecution. But that is not possible. We have been persecuted from the time of Jesus Christ, and the persecution will go on because that is the main character of our religion. Our religion is a persecuted religion, and in that persecution, our faith stands firm. The martyrs have shed their blood for our faith, and with that, we become more stronger, and our foundation for the faith grows even firmer.
Ayan, so, This has been a very fruitful conversation with you, indeed. Ano. So, before we say goodbye, no, friends, I'd like to again reiterate the call of Pope Francis, the call of na sinabi lang din kanina ni Kuya Jonathan, no, ni Sir Jonathan. And just pray. No? That prayer is the only link that connects us to our persecuted brothers and sisters. We cannot even begin to comprehend the power of prayer.
Yeah.
So, once again, I am Nico Balbidina and I'm with...
Jonathan Luciano of A to the Church in Need.
And this has been CBCP News Conversations. Kita kits!